Yes, hello and welcome to the recap from round 2 in the European Chess Club Cup. And we won the match today with 4-2, which was awesome. And I'm gonna go through my game because that's easier for me to choose my own game. And let's see here. Let's see what happened in my game. I'm gonna flip the board. And there we go, because I played with the black pieces today. Yes, you can see my board. Let's get started. I'm gonna read from my score sheet because we didn't play on a live board today. And I brought my score sheet this time. So my opponent started with knight f3 in the first move. And I decided to play d6, threatening to play e5, so it's pretty natural to play d4. Then we got a Dutch defense with a bit different move order, and white played knight c3, planning to play e4, played knight f6, bishop g5, and now I played d5, which definitely looks like a loss of tempo. But the difference is that white has played knight f3 instead of getting the knight to e2, so there is some point to this to stop e4. And as long as the position doesn't open itself, black should be fine with the tempo loss. So e3 played, e6 to develop this bishop, and knight e2. Yes, this is a logical move, to bring the knight to f4, and then to d3, and then to e5. So white can afford to lose some tempo here because black has played a bit slowly. Bishop e7 is natural. Knight f4. I played castle kingside, not trying to be creative. Bishop e2, and after thinking for a while I decided to exchange the bishops. The reason is because black has a bit less space to maneuver, so it's nice to exchange one piece to get a bit more space. Also, this pawn is now protected by the queen, so I can develop my knight. Let's see here. c3 played. Yes, this was a bit slow in my opinion, but definitely positionally correct. Place your pawns on dark squares because you have a light squared bishop, so that makes perfect sense. I went for knight d7, developing my knight, taking control of the e5 square. Knight d3 played, very logical, putting two knights to control this square. Now I played knight d6. And the idea is to play knight f7 and exchange here. Excuse me. White played knight e5. I traded one knight, and then I decided not to trade this knight yet. The reason is because I want to finish my development here first. So I played bishop d7. And here my opponent could just play castle kingside, but decided to play a bit tougher, I guess, queen b3. And the idea with queen b3 is to play c4. So I played b5 after thinking for a while. And the reason is because I think if black wants to try something, it has to be on the queen side. So just pushing all these pawns up the board and preventing c4. And also a4 is not possible because the bishop is controlling on a4. So my opponent played castle kingside, and now I played bishop e8, and the reason is because I didn't want white to capture on d7 in some variations. Also, I wanted to make space for my queen to maneuver here. And also sometimes the bishop can come out here on the king side. Bishop e8 is a typical placement against this knight, to have the bishop here. Now my opponent played f4, which is probably not the best move, but positionally again, it's totally justified, but maybe white should play on other ideas here. One move I was thinking about was bishop d3 instead, just taking control of the e4 square. Black doesn't want to go to c4 because Black doesn't want to trade the knight for the bishop, because then black has to play with the bishop against this knight, and those endgames are usually worse. So that's why I played knight e4, threatening a fork here. My opponent played rook a d1, which is a natural response. And now I decided to play a5, to start with a5 to remove the b4 square. If white wants to trade queens now, you have to play queen e3 and then you lose this pawn. So white cannot offer queen trade right now. Let's see. So bishop f3 played, trying to trade the bishop for the knight. And now I didn't want to go to f6 because I was worried about g4. So I went to d6 to be able to recapture with the knight on f5. You have to look out for the tactics here, bishop d5, but it doesn't work because you take and then the rook will be protected by the other rook. So once the bishop goes to f7, you open up and you protect your rook with your other rook. So bishop d5 doesn't work, but you have to always look out for these tactics. So I had to look at that before playing knight d6. Let me just check if you see the board. Yes, you see the board. Okay. So yes. Knight d6 played, queen e3, yes. White wants to exchange queens, but I wanted to keep the queens for a few more moves because this queen is misplaced, so didn't want to trade yet. So I played queen d8. Bishop e2 came, and I played queen b8. And at least optically threatening b4, although I'm not sure if I would have played it, because the reason is because if white takes, then the c file opens up and there will be pressure on this pawn. So I don't want to allow white to build up pressure on this pawn. I want to play c5 myself and trade it instead. So, but white, I guess, saw it as a threat and played queen b3. So now white lost some control here on this square. I played queen b6. So now my queen maneuver, I guess it started here, is done. White wants to place the knight on c5, I think, but that didn't happen in the game. I was thinking of maybe playing knight b7 and then playing c5 anyway, but instead my opponent played a3, which I don't completely understand. I guess it stops b4, but it's a bit slow. So now I played c5. I was pretty happy here because now I don't have problems with this pawn anymore, and I can play for my plan with b4 at some point. Maybe play queen c7 first. I wasn't sure exactly how to set myself up here. But white played rook c1, so the idea is that if I take, the c file opens up. But I didn't want to allow that. So I think white wants to put the knight on c5, so I decided to kill two birds with one stone, I guess. I played c4, preventing this maneuver. Also, I prevented the c file from opening up, so queen c2 was a natural response. Now I wasn't sure about playing b4, because then white answers b3 and it gets a bit tactical here. So instead I opted for exchanging the knight. And here white played rook b1, which is correct, but you have to calculate some variations here. I took the knight. You have to take with this pawn, otherwise if you take with the other pawn, the pawn is hanging here on e3. And now I was considering to play f4. I can show you, this is an analysis, I'll show you the variation. I didn't play f4, but if I would have played f4 with the idea to win the exchange here, white would have played queen d2, protecting the pawn, and I don't think this is good because it makes this pawn more available for white to attack. Also, white gets rid of the double pawn here, so I didn't like f4. Instead I played bishop g6, threatening f4. Now again, white could have played queen d2, but instead white decided to play rook f4. Now the rooks lost contact with each other, as you see here, so this makes it easier for me to open files and fight for them on the queen side. I started with rook b8 first, because now the rook is only protected by the queen, so if I play b4 and b takes c3 or b takes a3, the rook would be hanging behind. And that explains my opponent's next move, b4, although I think that b3 would have been better than b4. And the reason is because now we get this structure where, okay, now white has three choices, cb, ab, rook b. And if cb, then this didn't happen, but if this would have happened, I would build up pressure on the a pawn, but this could be playable. I'm not sure if this is playable for white, but it could be playable to just protect this pawn with everything. We can check a few more moves here. Queen c3, rook a6, rook a1, rook. Maybe white is not in time to protect it. That was interesting. Yeah, I guess white is not in time to protect it. Okay, so maybe I would have just won that pawn. Okay, interesting. So then maybe cb is not a good option. Another option would have been rook. This didn't happen either, but I was planning to play queen a5, threaten this pawn. And then I was planning to play rook a8, I think, to play this position. And my hope was that white was not on time to regroup properly and I would take control here. My opponent decided to choose AB and I played rook a8. Now I got control of the A file. When you open the A file, you have to be sure that you will control it. Otherwise, you just gave it away to your opponent. But here I was pretty sure that I would control it. Queen here. I'm not sure if I played the right move. Maybe I should have played rook a6 directly, but I played rook a7. Maybe it was actually slower. But my opponent played a bit passively here. I think my opponent should have somehow tried to attack on the king side, but it's not easy, of course. But instead, my opponent just went for trading pieces and on the A file. And now, so the important difference here is if you go to A, this did not happen, but if you go to A4, white takes and rook A1, and now you get queen bishop versus queen bishop probably, which could be hard to win. So instead I played rook a6. Then you don't get that endgame. I mean, you don't get that. Yeah, I guess it could be middle game as well. Rook fc1 played, queen e7. So now I tripled up. And if rook b1, then I'll go to a2 and win this bishop. So, or no, even catch the queen. So white has to take. Takes. And I control the A file, as you see. And let's see here. Oh yeah, king f1. Which I think it was a passive move, I think. I was looking at this one, but trying to get the queen out here. But I think black would play queen e3. That's what I looked at. Putting the queen here, putting the rook here. Somehow. So it still looks difficult for white, although if the queen ends up here, maybe it can cause some problems for black, but I think black should be better there still. Instead, white played king f1, and I played queen e2 because I want to trade queens. And now you see, you can compare the rooks, and you see that there's only one open file, and I control it. And the bishops are, for now, well, it's interesting how to evaluate these bishops, because on the one hand, yes, my pawns are on light squares. On the other hand, they limit this bishop, so this bishop doesn't have so many squares to move on. Bishop f3 played, and now I found a good plan, I think. So my opponent didn't have so much time left, but I just played my plan. So my plan was to start with bishop f7 first, just protecting in case, protecting one of my weaknesses. Bishop e2 played, and then I was expecting h4, but I played g5, so I was allowed to play g5 without any problems. g3 played, and then king g7. King e1 played, and now so my plan was to activate my bishop, and I found this nice move, king h6, and now I threaten bishop h5. And if the bishops are traded, I have full control of the second rank, as you see. The absolute second rank, because there are no pawns. There are no pawns here, which makes it the absolute control of second rank. So the king cannot go up. Ever. It cannot go up. It has to use the rook to go up to the second rank. So king h6. Rook d1 played, yes. So white is trying to take control of the second rank. I played rook a3, keeping the control of the a file, that's important. Rook c1. Now bishop h5. So I threatened to play rook a2 in the next move. And if white takes, then goes up with the king. I think I should be able to check here. Maybe I'll go up with the king first. So white played h3. And now I played rook a2. So it's like, it's similar to the other position we had before. So imagine if white didn't play rook d1, but instead white played h3, then you would get this position anyway. So it's a bit of a move transposition here. And g4 played, bishop g6. And now my next plan is to play f4, create the pass pawn, and then put the bishop in the center. So now you see that this bishop is finally becoming quite good. Even better than that one. So, and white didn't find a way to stop it. So rook d1 played, and I played f4. This was captured, takes. And now I threaten to march up, march up with my king here. So h4 played, which is logical. But then I have this move, bishop e4. And now I threaten to play f3 and f2 with devastating consequences. So that explains rook d2. Then rook a3 played, and now this pawn cannot be protected anymore. I was expecting, okay, this did not happen, but I expected g5 check, king g6, bishop g4, bishop f5. This is what I calculated. And if there is a trade here, then I calculated rook g2. I was looking at f3, but I think this wins. Check, check, takes, king here. I think I win this endgame. I was going to double check it, of course, but I didn't see any way for white to create the pass pawn here, and one pawn is gonna drop here, so I should be winning this endgame. But g5 check was not played. Instead, my opponent played bishop d1, clearing the way for the rook, I guess. I thought for a while and I decided to take the pawn. I think that's the correct move. Rook a2. So now the rook activated finally, planning to go to a6 and capture this pawn. My initial idea was to check here, but then I concluded that no, this is stronger. Rook h3 is stronger because I threatened to win this piece now by checking. And then depending where the king goes, I can check with my pawns and win the piece. So, and also if the king goes up, then I can win the rook. So the rook is badly placed here tactically. My opponent played rook a6. I checked on h1. King d2 played. I checked on c3, and my opponent resigned because the bishop is lost. If king c1, then I play c2, and I even get a new queen. So my opponent resigned the game here. I can show you the one possible continuation. Check, king here, but this pawn still takes 3 moves to go down, so yeah, for example here, check, king here, takes. Yeah, I was pretty sure this is winning. I have 2 pawns here, and I should be able to stop this pawn. So, back to my final position. So this was it. We won the match 4-2. And I just heard that we're gonna play on matchboard 9 tomorrow, which is great. That's what I was hoping for. They split it up into 2 playing halls, so matchboards 1 to 9 play in hall 1, and matchboards 10 and downwards play in hall 2. So I still haven't seen the first hall yet, so that's gonna be interesting. Alright, thank you for tuning in, and thank you for watching the recorded version if you're doing that. And see you after round 3.